Welcome back to the Real Estate Rat Pack Radio Show with Chris, Joe, and Rob. The crew is taking your calls, so dial in at 1-800-808-5548.
And we are back, and this is our final segment. We're here with Jackie Bally, Samantha Merritt, and mayoral candidate Bill King, and we're talking about Houston and Houston future. So, and on the break, sometimes our break conversation would make great radio, I think. So we need to start, broadcasting that as well. We were talking about the police, and you had said a number a while ago that really concerned me, that we have 300 less officers now. Our population is growing pretty rapidly. What's our fix here?
Yeah, so if you go back 10 years ago, we were spending $450 million on the police department. That budget's doubled in the last 10 years to $900 million, yet we have 300 fewer police officers. So that's a management problem.
Can we touch on that population growth a little bit too? You probably see behind closed doors a lot more than we do, and what I'm curious about is how do you think growth will really be in 15, 20 years here in Houston? Do you think that the numbers are as accurate as they're projecting, that we'll have 15, 20 million?
Candidly, I'm a little skeptical that the growth is going to be as robust as the projections are, but look, there's no question this is still America's city of opportunity. People come here to make a new life for themselves from all around the country and all around the rest of the world. It's a great, welcoming city. We got this huge heart to take people in. Bob Lanier used to say, "Here, nobody cares who your daddy is."
I love that. I love that.
It's so true. And so I think we're going to see a lot of growth. But the thing to remember is the city itself is not growing very much. It's the area outside the city that's growing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's I think that's the marketplace telling you something.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you get areas like the Woodlands where actually it's in spring where the Exxon campus is, and Darko and all that.
And
Sugarland. We don't want to leave out Sugarland, Jackie. And so you've got a lot of people out there also moving out there, and of course, Houston's 637 square miles, and so you've only got so much city. I mean, they have to go somewhere. So I understand why there's suburban growth as opposed to urban growth. But I think we have a really great opportunity now, if we can fix some things, to have some great growth inside our limits.
We've actually got a lot of vacant land inside the city.
Yes.
I don't think that's a good statement.
So where is all that vacant land?
But they can go build. Developers can go out and build these little perfect micro mini communities. It's a clean slate of land outside there, and they can create whatever they want without having to go through a lot of the politics that they go through with rebuilding. Inside of Houston, and retro building.
And the permitting problems. I mean,
yes.
About for every building permit issued in the city of Houston, there's about 10 issued in the county.
Wow. That's a big number. That's a big number.
And I can tell you that there's a dramatic difference from rebuilding, new construction permits and remodeling permits. There's a lot of the homes that I've worked on that, are effectively a brand new home, but we call it a remodeled home just because we don't have the 8-9 months of money to have carrying costs for the new construction.
And of course, some of it was due to historic districts that were established during this administration, and of course, that has not always been in a very egalitarian way that has been done. You have an opinion about that?
Well, the historic districts. Look, I think maintaining some of our history is an important thing, but I think that the historic districts have been used as sort of a backdoor zoning, to tell you the truth of the matter, in a lot of instances. And I think we need to be very careful about that. People complain a lot about Houston not having zoning, but it's one of the reasons why we have this incredibly dynamic city that reinvents itself constantly, and I'd hate to see us lose that.
Yeah.
But I also do hate to see us lose a lot of our culture and a lot of the older things that we've got around town. Tearing everything down for new all the time isn't always the right thing to do. So
I'm all for preserving history, but sometimes they're just old houses and old buildings. They're not really historically significant in any fact, but because it's in that district, you're going to save it. It's like, really?
Or deem how it can be saved.
Yeah, and then of course you're demonized. You come out and say, we really need to redo this or tear it down, and of course the people who want to preserve it go, oh, they're terrible people. It's all about the money. No, it's not all about the money. It's about creating a great city.
Well, it is about the money. I mean, there's ROI.
Oh, Samantha, come on! I'm trying to look altruistic here.
But I do want to say too that I'm looking forward to seeing you on Thursday, on June 25th at HAR.
Yeah, we have a mayoral forum for the realtors on June 25th at River Oaks Country Club. I think it may already be sold out. I'm not sure. I think it'd be a really good attendance, and I think all the candidates will be there. And I expect we'll have a very robust discussion about these issues, especially Rebuild Houston.
Yeah, that's going to be a good
It's not a quiet crowd, that's for sure, I can tell you.
So, taking into consideration your opponents, tell me how you distinguish yourself from the sea of sameness out there.
Well, I'm taller and better looking. No, I think that when you look at the field, I'm really the only businessman in the race. Everybody there, or not everybody, but most of the candidates are people who have made their living in politics. That's their calling card. There's a couple that's not the case, but most of these people have held elective office for some of them basically their entire life. There's nobody that's got the management experience that comes to this. I'm also the only candidate in the race that has zero political ambitions beyond this office. I'm not going to be running in a Republican or a Democratic primary when I get done here and have to worry about, how everything I do is going to look through those optics. The only reason I'm doing it is I love this city. I don't want to lose this incredible city of opportunity that I grew up in and that gave me the opportunities that I had. I want my kids and grandkids to have that same kind of city. And I am just really concerned that we're going down a direction that we're going to lose that if we don't change the direction we're going.
Talk a little bit about your business background, because we didn't really touch on that very much.
Yeah, you have it legal and corporate and politics too.
Yeah, so I've been in a lawyer and businessman here in town for the last 40 years. I started out in the real estate and savings and loan business in the early 80s.
Wow.
And made a lot of money and then lost all of it.
I think actually your story is just quite impressive because people don't realize that either.
Well, it's kind of Houston's story.
Exactly.
I fell completely on my face in the 1980s, lost everything, had to start completely over. And the great thing about this city is people all over, my friends said, okay, fine, you fell on your face, get up, dust yourself off, and get back into the game. And it's a city that gives you the opportunity to do that. I don't think there's many cities like that in the country. And then I went off and got involved in other businesses and eventually ran a pretty large national company for about 10 years, and we sold that company. But I think it's given me a unique perspective because I've had both the public side and the private side. I chaired the hurricane evacuation force to redo the hurricane evacuation plans for Governor Perry. I've been on the Transportation Policy Council for HUC. I had the experience at KEMA. I've been really involved with the schools here, but I've also had that business experience of having to make a payroll, having to pay back money, and I just think
you have a strong background in aviation.
Right.
I mean, I think with someone with your background, it's hard to really talk about everything because he's been involved in every policy area. And like I said, I've known him 20 years. He's been involved in every policy area that could impact our city that entire time that I've known him. That does give you
a very unique perspective.
But let me ask you, with all of that and all your great success, what are some of you keep thinking Houston as a whole, but what are some of the things that you think you do personally to add to your success or to keep yourself grounded?
Well, I think there's a number of things. Frankly, I learned a whole lot more from my failures than I did my successes, and I think most people will tell you that. When everything's going right, it's real easy to think that you're the most brilliant person and you don't make any mistakes. When you have to deal with failure and really examine what you did and what you did wrong, I think it makes you a really stronger, better person. There's no saying that adversity breeds character, and I think that's true. But I will say I think I've got all the character I need at this point.
That makes me quite a character, too.
Hopefully I'm done with the adversity part of my life at this point in time. But I think it also is having the intellectual honesty to come to these issues without a preconceived notion about, what you think. So many times what I see in the public policy area is people have an opinion, and then they go out and try to find facts that support that opinion, and they ignore all the facts that contradict it. I think we got to start with the facts and see where those lead us in these public policy. And I think if you're intellectually honest and do that, it leads you sometimes to places you didn't expect for it to lead you to. I know on the immigration issue, that's where I ended up being. I sort of had an opinion about it, and after I sort of studied it for a while, I came out a very different place, and I thought I was going to be on that.
Bill have an opinion. I don't think I really would hear that. I want to say one thing. I want to say thank you for putting yourself out there and for doing this, because a lot of people don't realize how time-consuming and what it takes away from your personal life and your professional life when you decide that you do want to be a candidate, especially of a city this large. So I do want to say thank you, because you bring a lot to the table, and we appreciate the fact that you would like to see us grow in a more positive way. And you do have solutions, which is good, because a lot of people will tell you, like you said, what the problems are, but they don't really come up with the solutions, and you're doing both. So I appreciate that,
Well,
too.
thank you for saying that. Going around the campaign trail, it is exhausting, but at the same time it's exhilarating, because you talk to these people who have sort of the same love for the city that we all do, and you find people doing these incredible things in the private sector and in charity and in public life, and you realize there's a lot of other people that love the city as much as we do.
Well, we're kind of running out of time. So, Samantha, you got an additional.
I was just going to actually touch on charity. I was going to ask you, if there's any systems in place now that you particularly like or care for, would like to see advanced.
Well, this has got to be one of the most generous cities in the United States. I've worked with a lot of different organizations. Interfaith Ministries has been one of my passions, but Crime Stoppers, the Firefighters Foundation, Galveston Bay Foundation. We've got all these tremendous charities that if you want to get involved in the city, there's plenty of places to do it. And there's a gala night, and hundreds of people show up, and they raise hundreds of thousands, not millions of dollars every night in the city. It's incredible, the generosity of this city.
So, what one message? We're getting really on a short time here. What one message would you like to leave our listeners with?
We need to fix the streets, catch the crooks, balance the budget. We got to get this city back to basics.
All right.
And don't forget to vote.
And don't forget, yes, please get out and vote. So Jackie Bally,
yes,
I really appreciate you being here, and I hope you'll come back sometime.
I will.
And Samantha, always lovely to have you. And Mr. King, I wish you the best of luck on the campaign trail. And if you'd like to come back in the fall, we would love to have you.
Well, as long as you have beautiful women on the show, I will be back.
Do you hear that? You hear that, Chris and Joe? So we until next week, we're out of here.
That's right.
And you've been listening to the Real Estate Rat Pack. The question is, who's Frank, who's Sammy, who's Dean, and who's the other guy?
Chris is Frank, he's Dean, and I'm Sammy.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
So tune in to the Really Big Show every Saturday at 9 a.m. right here on 100.7 The Word, KKHT.